Okay, today we're going to do a little bit of a tutorial today showing Helicon Focus and how to do a batch stack if you have done a Hyperstack. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you have Helicon Focus. This is the only stacking program that I'm really aware of that has this ability. I know it can be done with Zareen, but I'm actually not sure how, and I think it's a little bit more command line based. So this is probably going to be the most simple method for somebody who wants to do it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get your footage and bring it in. In this case, I've got all of my source images here under set 2. Just a heads up, depending on how many images you end up with, if you end up with 15, 20,000, depending on the subject and the magnification, you might need to do some renaming to get everything in the same folder. Because you're going to need to have all the footage in the exact same folder to do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the first 8 images, and I know that that's how many I have in a stack, and I'm just going to go ahead and bring it in to Helicon. Now there is a little place where you can get more information about this. So if you go to, say, let me get this stuff out. If you go up here to heliconsoft.com, they do have information about the different parameters that you can use over here. And I'm not really going to go over those because all that info is here. But basically, for the most part, I just kind of play around with it a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is get that first stack brought in, and we're going to kind of take a look and see how this goes. So we have all the images here. I'm just going to hit render. And here we go. We got our first stack. And I think it looks pretty good. You know, not too bad, but let's go ahead and just give method B a try and see how that looks. Okay, now we can go back and forth between these. I think method B looks a little bit better, but it's kind of a wash. Let's go ahead and try method C. And this one actually looks pretty good. We're seeing more detail around this leg. If I go back to the other ones, you'll see that that leg in the back is kind of blown out. So actually, I think C is going to be the winner for this one. So, and also something that you might want to do when you're doing a hyperstack, you want to use only the exact number of images needed. You don't want to overshoot it. So make sure you're using a focus depth of field calculator or something like that to get as close as possible, because if you overshoot it, and I'll kind of explain here, we're going to go to retouching, and I'm going to go show depth map or source map. And in fact, let's go over to A and B because they actually process a little bit different. So if we go to B and we go to retouching, you'll see here it shows which portions of each image that it used to create the stack. And what you're going to want is to have the biggest chunks possible. So if you end up having like seriously small layers of banding, you're going to start getting a little bit of a result on your footage where it's going to be a little bit of a jello-y effect. You're going to have to start working on some stabilization, and unfortunately that's something that you can't really get past. There's most likely going to need to be some effort to stabilize the footage just by the nature of how heavily processed this stuff is just for the stacking alone, let alone putting it into a video. Because when it creates these bands that it's going to assemble together, those are going to shift a little bit from one stacked image to the next, and that can cause a little bit of this jello-y effect. So if you're seeing it, make sure that you're only using the number of images that you need, and you can go in here and just make sure that you got pretty much in focus from one side to the next. If it's really crisp and in focus, and say like if I use like 50 for this and it was these tiny little bands, it's going to get pretty jiggly in the end. So you only want to use the absolute minimum number of images possible in order to complete it when you're doing a batch stack for a hyperstack. So I like method C, and we're just going to go ahead and do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to Helicon, and we're going to go to File, we're going to go to Batch Process, and we're going to add that folder. So in this case, the folder is marked to set to. This is the one that I'm using. And you can see here there's another folder that's in here that shows up. So this is the main folder and this is a subfolder. I'm just going to go ahead and remove the subfolder. And then we have 2082 images. So what we're going to do is we're going to a little drop down here, and we're going to go to split stack. And it's going to take a moment and read through the EXIF data. The split stack is a way to where you can take all the images in one folder and tell it every 40 images is a stack, or every 20 images is a stack. In this case, it's every 8 images is a stack. So I have that here. So that means that we're going to have 261 stacks. So they're all 8 plus 241. So I'm going to go ahead and hit split. And I'm going to put a new subfolder in here because I've already focus stacked this once. So we're just kind of redoing this for this tutorial. So I'm going to say set 2. And then I'm going to use JPEG, quality 100%. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on render. And you're going to see it's going to sit there and it's going to start cranking these out one after another. So at this point, go get a cup of coffee, something like that. The computer I'm using this on, this is a 2023 Mac Pro. It's the M2 with fully loaded. Thank you, Apple, for this. And it runs through these pretty quickly. But, you know, honestly, any i9 processor for Windows is going to do just as good of a job. I've also got a i9 laptop with a 3080 Ti graphics card built into it, the mobile version. And it actually plows through this pretty much the same speed. So it's going to take probably about 3 or 4 seconds per image, depending on how many you have. Sometimes I'll have like 60 images in a stack, and it takes it forever. You know, well, not forever, like maybe 5 to 10 minutes. It's not too bad. So you just kind of let this run. While this is running, let's go over a couple things with Premiere Pro real quick. I'm going to go ahead and just close this out. Well, right now it's locating media. Let's just do cancel. Cancel. So we're going to do a new project. We're going to name this Fly Hyperstack. And I'm going to go ahead and close all these out. And we're going to close this one too. Okay, so here we are. The first thing you're going to want to do, so I am going to be using Premiere Pro for this. This is what the tutorial is going to use. There are other programs that can do this as well. It's no different than if you're putting together a time lapse or a stop motion animation. It all runs the same, but Premiere Pro is the program that I use. Okay, what we're going to do, the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to set it up to where it only puts 1 frame per image. By default, it's like 30 or 100 or something like that. So we're going to just go to Premiere Pro, go to settings, and just open up general. And what we're going to look for in here, I believe, is okay, under preferences, you're looking for this still image default duration. You're going to want to set that to 1 frame, okay? And then hit enter. And then after that, you're going to want to close Premiere Pro and reopen it, or else when you drag these in, it's going to be like 30 frames per image, and it's not going to work right. Let's go ahead and check on Helicon and see how that's doing. Still plowing through. Okay, now that this is pretty much complete, one thing I do want to mention is you should always make sure you go into Helicon and you want to go into the preferences and check the auto adjustments and make sure crop output automatically is not set. I also keep my adjust vertically or horizontally about 1%, and you can use any of these. Generally, I've been using the Lanco's 8, which is the slowest one. I'm not sure why it's on this, but you know, it's going to give a pretty similar result. So once we have that done, what we're going to go and do is in here there should be a new folder called Focused Set 2 that I built, and then we're going to go back to Premiere Pro, grab my Finder folder, and I'm just going to drag this right in here. And then I'm going to grab the folder and I'm going to create a new timeline based on the folder. And what we're going to see is we've got the Hyperstack already pretty much put together, and this one's actually looking pretty good. There might be a little bit of jelly effect, but so far I'm liking what I'm seeing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and export the media, And I always, for the very first one, I'll do Apple ProRes. It's going to be coming out as an 8K video file. And we're going to go ahead and change the location of the folder. Let's see. We'll go to desktop, macro positioner, and then I've got Fly March 2. And you see I already got some of these that I've already rendered it. But I'm going to do tutorial, render, master, 8K. And I am not going to do any kind of editing on this. I'm just immediately going to go ahead and crank this one out. So we'll give that a moment. Okay, now that it's done, I'm going to go back into the Finder and I'm going to find that file. I put it under here. Okay, tutorial render 8K. I'm going to grab that and drag it right back in here. And I'm going to create a new timeline sequence based off of that. And from here, I can take a look and see, and you know what? I don't see a lot of jelly effects. I don't see a lot of artifacts. I'm actually really happy with the way this one came out. There's a little bit of haloing, and you can play around with the settings in Helicon and make sure that you're getting it to be the way that you want it the most. But normally from this point, what I'll do is I will go ahead and file export media, and I might go ahead and just knock this out as a different resolution. Like maybe since I've got the master file here, I might go ahead and just export this out as a high quality 2160 4K and just go ahead and punch that through. So we'll hit export and you'll see it's going to go a lot faster this time. And then once I have that one, I've got a very easy file to play with. I could go ahead and do whatever crops or anything like that that I want to do. Let's see, where did it go? Yeah, okay. So this is the 4K version. You see it's very easy to scrub and you can see a lot of detail. So from here, I will go ahead and start continuing with any edits, whether I'm adding a Lumetri preset or if I'm going to go ahead and do a crop or put this in however I want it. But that in a nutshell is how you process the footage. So it's actually not difficult to do. It's fairly easy. You just need Helicon Focus and you need Premiere Pro or another program like maybe DaVinci Resolve or anything like that. Whatever you normally use to put together time-lapse type footage or anything that can do like a stop-motion animation video. So I hope that's beneficial, and thanks for watching.